Techlandia is recorded at the central office on the east side in Portland. Central office is a one stop for all your office or meeting needs. Check them out at centraloffice.com. Good morning and welcome to Techlandia, Tao's podcast about the technology industry and all those who support it. My name is Tim Winter. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Tao, stepping in for Skip Newberry today and welcoming our guest from Elevated Tax Strategies, Justin Rupple, founder and CEO. Justin, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Tim. It's a pleasure to be here. Appreciate you having me.
Hey, you got really good sound, man. So good on you. You must have a good mic. Well,
It's my
welcome to the
MacBook
show.
Pro I'm in love with, so,
Good.
nothing special here.
Wow, it's coming across great. So, well, welcome to the show. And Justin and his company are members of Tao, and excited to have you on the show today because I think you have a very interesting and very vivid way of explaining what you all do. But why don't you tell us a little bit about you and Elevated Tax Strategies?
Awesome. It's my pleasure. So as you said, my name is Justin Rupple, and we enjoy assisting business with tax strategy. But before that, I'm a human being. I'm married. I have 4 boys, between 7 and 14. So whenever I meet with someone, share with them that I have 4 kids, and then they're like, "Oh, really?" I said, "Yeah," and they're all boys. Their eyes get really big, and they're like, "Oh, wow, you must be tired." And I'd be lying to say if I'm not exhausted right now. But that's par for the course for me. We're in the middle of Little League. My boy's playing. My oldest 14-year-old is actually umpiring Little League. He's got his first job right now. Did a game last night and is awesome at it. So anyway, it's a lot of fun. I'm in Southeast Portland, based here. We work with businesses all over the nation, but this is where we call home.
Wow. And we just finished tax season, right? But
Yes,
so in
that's
your
right.
business, yeah, is tax season year round though? Really?
Oh, yes. And especially what we do, we actually sometimes have a little bit of a lull in April as our business owners kind of pivot to working with their CPAs to get the filings done. But we have a lot of work leading up to that, and then right after that, kind of get to work again. Because being proactive about taxes, it is a year-round thing, and you do it looking forward, not looking backwards.
Yeah, it's kind of too late after April 15th, right?
Yeah, there's very little that we can do looking back, but that is the typical practice of business owners and their tax preparers. It's an exercise of looking backward and getting everything, the numbers put in the right boxes and everything filled out properly. And sometimes there's a little bit of planning you can do or a little bit of strategic moves, but the vast majority of what you can do as far as elevating your tax strategy is a proactive, comprehensive, looking forward to the future and where you're going kind of approach.
Yeah. So tell me about that because and I think a lot of people think, What is tax strategy?" I mean, you fill out the forms, you got to pay what you got to pay, and you move forward.
Yeah, and that's so often when I connect with business owners and real estate investors who are typical clients, they think taxes are what they are. You fill out the numbers, it's math, right? This is how much you pay, and you make more money, you pay more taxes. That's how it is, and that's often the feedback they're getting from their tax preparer. But the truth is, we all realize the tax code's enormous. It's tens of thousands of pages. It's very complex. And it's literally designed to favor business owners and real estate investors. And Congress has done that on purpose. Lawmakers have built out the tax code because it's what drives and incentivizes innovation, building the economy, building cities, creating jobs. And so there's so many moves that can be made. I talked to an expert CPA who I've learned a lot from in tax strategy, because they're people older and smarter than me who have, learned so much that I've learned from. And he said that taxes are a game that nobody ever learned how to play. And it was an interesting comment he made to me one time. We were chatting, and I was like, "Oh, that resonates." Because it's like we're all playing checkers where there's just very simple moves you can make, backward and forward. Actually, you can only go forward until you get to the other side and you become a king. So people think they've got to reach some kind of level, and then maybe then there might be some other moves they can make. And it just seems pretty basic, pretty, just linear. It just is what it is. And the truth is, taxes are more like playing chess. I mean, there's a lot of strategy. I mean, that is a rabbit hole you can go deep into in learning the different kind of moves you can make and the strategies and all of that moves and counter moves. And tax strategy, there's so much more. There's so many different things within the tax code, within the boundaries and the guardrails of compliance, because absolutely we need to stay within what is compliant with what is allowable in the law. There's a lot of room for different kinds of moves and even tax incentives and credits that we can leverage. So many ways where taxes, rather than becoming a drain, as it like anchoring your business from moving forward, it actually can become wind in your sails, propelling you to accelerate further to where you're going.
I think that paints such a vivid picture, the comparison between chess and checkers.
Mhm.
Because I think most people look at taxes as checkers. And maybe the game is to get to the end, the over then to become king and then move on. But when you think about all the pieces of a chessboard and all the different moves that they have, that's really the intricacy of the tax code.
Yes, absolutely. And I think what many don't realize is that tax preparers, those that which are typically CPAs or enrolled agents, EAs, they have spent a lot of time and energy becoming extremely proficient at understanding all the different tax forms, how to properly fill them out, staying current on the way these forms and the rules around those forms are getting updated every year. That's a massive undertaking that requires a lot of experience and knowledge and constant continuing education. And that's really important. That's the compliance, tax filing, tax return side of our taxes. That is extremely necessary. So, not no part of me would want to diminish the value of a good tax preparer getting your tax returns done properly and accurately every single year. But for most business owners, that's all they think about when it comes to doing taxes and realizing there's a whole nother side of the coin. It's a different perspective, it's a different approach, different knowledge base and experience. And that is proactive tax planning and tax strategy. Because this is a very different perspective of looking at understanding your business, understanding the work you're doing, understanding your workforce, understanding your financials, and knowing what kinds of moves you can make to be able to better position yourself for being more tax efficient, keeping more money in your business and in your pocket to accelerate the investment in growing your business.
Because at the end of the day, I mean, I know that there's always been this, whether it's spoken or unspoken, adversarial relationship with the IRS.
Yeah.
So let me just assume for a positive intent for a minute. And just doesn't it make sense for the government, for the IRS to help businesses to flourish so that they hire more people, make more money, and ultimately pay more taxes?
Absolutely. The government's in it for the long game. You know,
Right.
uh, so you're absolutely right. There are so many strategies that are accessible within the tax code, ways to reduce taxes, defer taxes, eliminate taxes, leverage tax incentives, which is literally money directly back in your business to accelerate your growth. The government is they're not foolish. They're not just trying to reduce their revenue. They understand that if they can help incentivize businesses to take risks, to innovate, to invest in research and development, invest in new technology, to hire more people, they realize that's increasing our productivity, that's increasing the tax base, that's increasing the workforce, that's growing our economy, and that ultimately results in more taxes and revenue for the government. So they know what they're doing, and why not take advantage of these opportunities by leveraging tax strategies that is the kinds of things that the big corporations, the ultra wealthy, I mean, they're doing this all day long. They invest millions to save them billions. And I'm passionate about helping those kinds of strategies become accessible to the small business owner and entrepreneur.
So how did this come about? How did you I mean, I get it, it all makes sense, but how did you decide this was a
Y
business?
Yeah, let me tell you how I got into this. So I Back about 16 years ago, I got recruited by a close friend of mine I went to church with, who was a co-owner of a group benefits and health and life insurance agency. And so they mainly worked with small businesses on their insurance needs. And so I was a middle school teacher at the time, actually, and which is its
Wow.
own funny, crazy story. And so he's trying to recruit me to be an insurance agent. I'm like, why in the world would I ever be an insurance agent? Like, that just sounds like the worst thing. I'm not a sales guy. I'm an educator. And my good friend really knew me well, and then he said, actually, a really good educator makes the best advisor, whether it be insurance advisor, whether that be working with business owners, because you're not just trying to sell a product or make a transactions. You're trying to inform, educate, and find solutions to their problems. And so, anyway, he won me over, and I joined their team, and really enjoyed this new process. I mean, this new industry I'm stepping into, working with business owners and entrepreneurs. And often, when you're starting to work with entrepreneurs, you realize, they might be great at what they do. They're innovative. Maybe they're a great plumber, a great electrician, whatever it is. But there's so much more to running a business, and rebuilding a team than just your trade or your craft or your innovative idea or whatever that might be. And so when you're starting to help them, maybe set up their first benefits package, you realize there's so much more. Now they have questions about payroll and HR and payroll taxes and all these different things. Well, this insurance agency, so about 5 years later, we got connected with a specialty tax firm. Now, at the time, I didn't know there was a thing called specialty tax. I think there's a tax preparer. There's the CPA who does your tax filings. That's what else is there? That was my perspective, and I think that's the perspective of many business owners. Well, this specialty tax firm had one job, and that was to come in and identify tax credits that business owners were leaving on the table, primarily focusing on the research and development or R&D tax credit. As insurance brokers working with small business owners, we were intrigued. Like, wait a minute, you're telling us that many of our clients are literally leaving tens or hundreds of thousands, in some cases, millions of dollars on the table, all because their tax preparers are not proficient with this tax credit. And yes, that's what they're telling us. They said, well, we don't want our clients to be leaving money on the table, to be missing out on incentives that could be, to help accelerate the growth of their business. Could we bring these solutions to our clients? And so we created a partnership where we became, kind of the educating and marketing arm of the specialty tax firm out there, connecting with business owners, helping them understand the opportunity. And in many cases, even teaching their CPA about how this tax credit works, because it's a very sophisticated, complex tax credit with clear guidelines and rules and calculations requiring the work of a specialty tax firm. So that was my introduction into this. And it was so satisfying to, help our clients in many cases recover hundreds of thousands of dollars, that really became wind in the sails. It was money back in their pocket that they can then invest back into their business to further innovate, further grow. And that process opened our eyes to and then slowly learning, oh, there's other incentives, there's other strategies, there's other specialists out there that could be beneficial to our clients. And so that became a big pivot in our work. About 5, 6 years later, we were like, insurance? What's insurance? We forgot all about that. We're enjoying filling a huge gap, and that is helping businesses grow with innovative tax strategies.
That's fascinating. I love I love the story, but I love the origin stories of how businesses get started because they're usually just like that. I if I had $1 for every time someone said, "Well, my friend called me and said," and and then the next thing you know, you're going public.
Yeah, oh,
Uh,
absolutely. And that's one of those things, we kind of stumbled into it that way, learned so much and saw, oh, there's such a need. But what I found is there's this massive disconnect between the CPAs and tax preparers that are working directly with small business owners and entrepreneurs to
sure.
do taxes, and these tax specialists that exist out there that do things like R&D credit studies, cost segregation studies for real estate, help with different kind of tax credits like green energy improvement reductions and work opportunity tax credit and all sorts of different things. So the specialist exists out there, but who's connecting that? And so our goal is to come in the middle of that and provide complementary tax strategy consulting to our clients, and then bringing the specialist to them that provide what they need. And so our goal is to really help make this accessible by connecting with an entrepreneur, business owner, looking at their business structure, taxes, all of that, say, hey, where's money being left on the table? Where are there strategies that can help better position your business to help improve cash flow, reduce taxes, to accelerate growth? That's what we're here for. And there's so many more opportunities than people realize. Sometimes the pushback I get is actually from their CPA, who goes, where's there any space for tax savings or reductions or incentives? And it's not because they're not sharp and great at what they do, it's that this is not what they do. And so our job is to collaborate with CPAs and tax preparers, say, hey, here's what's being overlooked. Here's other opportunities we can leverage. And let's explore these things together to better serve this business.
Yeah. You know what I love too is I love on your website, I love your testimonials are like, you got some big companies on there, but you also just got some like, you know, um, just some entrepreneurial companies that are you're helping, like a plumber
Hmm.
and that business. And everybody thinks that America's made up of big corporations. It's really not. I think 90% of it are small entrepreneurial companies.
Yes, the vast majority of entrepreneurs, small businesses make up a huge component of our economy. As I shared my origin story, so to speak, of getting into this, I got started by calling up one of my good friends. Her name's Liz. She's a chiropractor, and she was about a year and a half into starting her own chiropractor practice, and I called her up and I said, this might sound too good to be true, but I'm aware of the innovative work you're doing and the way that you're testing and experimenting with new chiropractic techniques and technology. Um, would you believe it that there's a tax credit to incentivize that I want you to learn about? Would you humor me and jump on a call? I'm still learning this myself. I'm not the expert yet. And she's good friends, so she's like, sure, what the heck? What's the worst that can happen? I'll just learn something. Turns out, we were able to find, I'm trying to think, this is our first client with R&D, I think something like $30,000 to get back for her, for a small new entrepreneur. Hey, that is incredibly helpful. Money back in the business. And that really launched from her, where she's like, everyone needs to know about this. And so, you get started sometimes with small little baby steps, and you realize there's this, it might seem small to some, but for the small entrepreneur, for the startup, for the new business owner, this is a gift. And that's what these kinds of tax incentives and strategies are meant to incentivize business owners to take risks, to invest in growing and innovation. And that's exactly what it did.
Wow. Wow. Well, it's so exciting to talk to somebody who's so excited about what they do and
I'm
how
actually
you
excited about taxes. Most people hate it. They're like, I talk to business owners like taxes, they roll their eyes like, why do you enjoy this? I'm like, because we see all the opportunity. We don't just see a drain, and a ton of labor and work. We see, it's exciting to connect dots, see opportunities, see strategies, and see where it can be, that kind of like win in the sales of an entrepreneur.
how much work goes into on your team's part and on your company's part of staying up to date on all the tax codes and
Oh,
everything?
it is a daily job. I mean, I was, this morning drinking my morning cup of coffee, reading headlines on current, tax legislation with Congress, um, given the current administration and the Republicans having both houses, you would think it means an easy pathway for certain tax legislation to get passed, and yet they're having a hard time agreeing on everything. And so, paying attention to this, figuring out where things are going. I mean, I have many clients eagerly waiting to see what's going to happen this year. We're in a key pivotal year. I'm not many business owners. We help them understand how tax legislation works. The Tax Cut and Jobs Act passed back in 2017 under Trump's first administration. had a big impact on small business taxes. It created a thing called qualified business income deduction that is a huge deduction for small business profits. But it also created some of the challenges with the R&D tax credit because 5 years in from that getting passed, if you're taking advantage of research and development, you're having to amortize your expenses over 5 years. And that many people listening to this podcast might be very aware of the impact of that. But also that tax legislation, many of the provisions sunset at the end of this year because they're initially temporary. So Congress has to reenact some of them to make them permanent. Many of them, like bonus depreciation and the qualified business income deduction, are going to be big ones, but we're also hoping they fix that amortizing with the R&D tax. And so that's one we're watching super closely. So things like this are always on our radar. And our goal is, as soon as we see these things coming through and we see changes, immediately push that out to our clients. Like, okay, here's what's changed. Here's how that changes your strategy. Because we have to constantly be, with the ever-changing environment, we got to constantly making tweaks and shifts to our tax strategy, which means the typical retroactive looking back to last year and doing your tax approach as your tax strategy is insufficient. It keeps you behind the eight ball. You're always reacting rather than being proactive. And so that's where we enjoy having that kind of looking forward, staying current, making moves, right away rather than looking backwards going, oh, we should have, but it's too late. And that's often where we find businesses, we're first getting started with them.
Yeah. So tell me and tell our guests, what's it like working with you guys? What's the process? Like
Oh,
if I fill out your contact us form, what's gonna happen?
So, Tim the entrepreneur, you come on, you fill out a form and you reach out, whatever that might be. We always start with a complimentary tax strategy consultation. And that's to get to know one another. It's say, hey, let's understand who you are, what are you doing, how long you've been doing it, how are you structured, what's the financial tax picture? We look kind of high level conversation. That conversation, because of the questions that we know to ask to understand the different components of your tax strategy, I'll tell you, many of the owners I connect with, if I ask them flat out, what is your tax strategy? I just get a blank stare. They're like, I don't even know if I have a tax strategy. Like, no, hey, that's okay. You do. It just might be insufficient. And so we understand where you are, and then we know where you can go. What kind of, we laid out a bit of a roadmap. Okay, here's maybe a couple tax incentives that are worth exploring that could be meaningful. Here's maybe a way that your structure, your corporate structure is insufficient. Maybe more advanced or robust corporate structure to be more tax efficient, to reduce your taxes every single year. Maybe there's other investments you're looking to make. So that 1 hour, it's crazy how much can be accomplished in laying out that roadmap and that game plan. And then we go from there, and then we kind of quarterback the process with you to then let's start exploring each one of those opportunities we've identified in that 1 hour. And so we bring the specialist to the table to look at each one of those. For every single one, there's still no financial commitment until we've explored that opportunity. So I'll take R&D tax credit as an example. If that's one that seems viable, okay, let's explore that. We'll do a little deeper dive into understanding what you're doing, its eligibility. That's when we can actually go back 3 years potentially, with the current rules around R&D expensing and amortizing, which I'm not getting into all the details right now, but many that
Sure.
are listening may be familiar with that. We got to factor that into the equation, and it's kind of figure out then what's it going to cost to do the credit studies, and we lay all that out to you so that you can make an informed decision about what incentives are worth leveraging for you and your business. All of this is about providing value and ROI. Tax preparation is an expense that's necessary. You got to pay someone to do your taxes, and they got to be done right, or else it's going to cost you a whole lot more. So I tell business owners, look, that's an expense that it has no financial direct return, but it's a necessary expense to stay compliant. Tax strategy and tax incentives is an investment in the future that needs to have an ROI. So our job is to help determine each one of these incentives or strategies. What's the ROI here? What benefit does it bring you? Is it worth the cost? I could tell you in many cases, the ROI is massive. You typically get more ROI investing in your tax strategy than almost any other area of your business you could invest in. The return is often, 4 to 10x, and so that's what we explore with you. And if that makes sense, okay, then there's an engagement with that specialist to leverage that incentive or that strategy. Without getting into a lot of details right now, that's the kind of roadmap, and we help walk you through that to make it easy, user friendly, lightweight, and implementing it. And there's parts of the process where you need to collaborate with your current CPA or tax preparer. A lot of my clients come to us saying, "Hey, we're actually looking for maybe we've outgrown our tax preparer. We're looking for a new CPA that we like to work with." We'll help them through that process of identifying and finding one, and we provide this consulting and and uh, and kind of strategizing at no cost. Because when we bring these specialists to the table, there's a cost for the service they might bring, like the R&D credit study. We share in the revenue with that specialist on the back end. And so that allows us to work with you, Tim, the business owner, entrepreneur, whoever it might be, kind of as your advocate through the process and your consultant, making sure that each one of the opportunities makes sense, that you are feeling empowered to understand how this works so you can make the right decision, and you understand what the ROI is.
Wow. Well, that seems, pretty straightforward and, not too intrusive, which is great. I tell you,
I
I
get to you say
y
intrusive. I mean, that brings to mind so many of our clients. They're busy, they're
yeah.
successful entrepreneurs, they're running a profitable business, or they're, on the front end stages of getting to something built. They've got a lot on their plates. And often the last thing they need is something that's going to distract them and divert their time and energy, or their team's time and energy, into something else, even if there's a return to it. So that's where our role is to help make this easy and simple and minimal impact, to where this is worthwhile. And so that's what our goal is there, because we understand what it is much. I'm an entrepreneur myself, so I get it.
Yeah. I really I compliment you on as I was listening to you, I'm sitting there thinking, "Well, why haven't you opened up a CPA branch?" And my compliments to you, just, be stay in your lane and do
Yes.
what you do. And so many other people would, see it as a way of growth or growing. And I think it really is interesting that you just stay in your lane and be an expert at what you do and let others be experts at what they do. And my
Yeah,
compliments.
I appreciate that. Yeah, the compliance side of taxes, which is doing the tax returns and tax preparation, that is vital and important. We respect that, and that's not our lane. We have to collaborate and work with tax preparers, because so much of what we help produce and our specialists produce, and that has to be implemented or incorporated into tax filings to take advantage of. Absolutely. And so we'll take the specialty side of it and the strategy side, and we'll allow them to keep doing what they're doing. And it allows us to really play friendly with any CPA, any tax preparer. We're not here to compete with them, not here to replace them. We're here to be another member of the team to fill a huge gap, and that is tax strategy, because that's what the tax preparers are not set up to do. And a lot of times it's even just the way their businesses are structured. Is they Tax preparation is a high volume, low margin business, and what that means is they have to have lots of clients, and they're very busy. And any business owner right now would nod their head and say, "I get it. It's hard to get a hold of my CPA,
Yeah.
especially during tax season." But it's true, often all year long, because each tax season rolls into the next. And so, we're here to operate very differently, to focus on looking for proactive tax planning.
Yeah. It must kill you to see companies that, uh, leave dollars on the table.
Oh, it's painful. A lot of times I'm meeting with somebody, running a great business, a lot of innovation, and things like the R&D tax credit, and they've never heard of it, but they've been in business for a dozen years. And
Yeah.
so I tell them, I got good news and bad news. The good news is the statute allows us to go back 3 years, and claim, every dollar. The bad news is we can't go back 12 years. But we're gonna get every dollar we can back in your pocket, and we're gonna set you up to not leave a dollar on the table going forward. So it's painful sometimes to see how much is being overlooked. I mean, I got connected with a local manufacturer, really innovative. They have contracts with SpaceX, and I mean, they're doing great work. And they There was two different tax credits, a tax strategy with how they're structured, and then another payroll tax savings program that can save them on their employee payroll tax. When we put all these pieces together, it's putting over $1 million back in their pocket. And this was all just being overlooked, just because this isn't what anybody was helping them look at. So we're grateful for the opportunity to help fix that, get them back into a place of where they're running, optimally tax efficient. But there's so much being left. And so often these business owners come to the table to meet with us, really, having no clue, like, is there anything here? Are we overlooking? As far as I know, I think we're doing everything there is. It's like, oh, you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
Yes, and there's a lot. And so we enjoy having those strategy consultations with our clients, because it's kind of a search and find. My younger boys, do you know the search and find books?
Yeah.
You're flipping through. You're trying to find the hammer or the pencil or whatever it is. That's what it is for me, and it's still like, it's the little kid in me, and it's like, let's see what we can uncover here. And it's amazing the treasures that can be found, as you look closely at a business and see what opportunities there are.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Well, Justin, I tell you what, for as far as people go with being passionate about their business, you win the award.
I appreciate
Um,
that.
no, and I think it's great. I think for the audience, if you want to explore this, what's the best way for people to get a hold of you, Justin?
Yeah, on our website, elevated.tax, real simple domain, or my email is justin@elevated.tax. Shoot me an email, or hop on our website. There's even a place to to book a consultation right on the website as well. Love to have a conversation with you. Don't worry if I have business owners saying, "Oh, maybe I'm too small. There's not much. We're just getting started." Hey, we will meet with anybody. Sometimes it's just helping lay a bit of a roadmap, saying, "Hey, we don't have anything particular to bring to you that's of benefit today, but here's some different markers on your journey where we should reconnect." And sometimes even that, like, kind of look forward thinking roadmap is super helpful for entrepreneurs. They're getting started. What stages should I make different moves? And so we kind of help lay that out there. That's all at no cost. We advise on business tax strategy, real estate tax strategy, as well as capital gains planning for someone that's actually looking to exit or selling property, where there's a capital gains event. There's often a lot of strategies there that get overlooked as well. That can, in those cases, often have, 6, 7, 8 figure impacts. Lots of opportunity. Always happy to talk.
Wow. Well, listen, I appreciate it. I appreciate the conversation, and I appreciate you being on the show. And have a good rest of your day. And thanks,
Oh,
Justin. I appreciate it.
thank you, Tim. It's a pleasure to be on this podcast with you, and it's a pleasure to be a partner with the association. You guys do great work.
Well, we appreciate it. Talk to you soon, my
All right,
friend.
take care.
Bye.